Not every DC character was born on the comic page. Many debuted in television, radio, cartoons, or video games before crossing into official DC canon. These were not mere adaptations. They were outsiders who became permanent insiders, eventually standing alongside icons like Batman and Superman. From characters created for animation to figures so popular that DC had no choice but to adopt them, their journeys changed the landscape of the universe. Which heroes and villains made the leap? Here are 10 characters who came from outside the comics. At number 10 is Harley Quinn, a major DC character who entered the universe from outside the comics. She was created for television, debuting in Batman, the animated series in 1992. At the time, DC animation characters were developed separately from comic continuity. Harley was introduced as a temporary henchwoman for the Joker, created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm for the animated storyline. However, her popularity led DC to formally absorb her into the comic universe. Her official entry into DC canon happened in 1999 with the graphic novel Batman, Harley Quinn, which adapted her origin for print. She was then integrated into ongoing Batman comics, retaining her identity as Harleen Quinzel, a former psychiatrist connected to the Joker. This marked a direct transition from animation into mainstream DC storytelling. Over time, she became a very popular, recurring character. Since her 1999 comic debut, Harley Quinn has remained part of DC Comics continuity through regular appearances in Batman and related series. At number 9 is King Tut, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books. He was created for the 1960s Batman television series, debuting in 1966. At the time, the show developed villains independently from DC Comics continuity. King Tut was introduced for television as Dr. William Omaha McElroy, a scholar believing he was an ancient Egyptian ruler. His character existed solely within the live-action series and was not part of the comic canon for decades. DC later decided to formally incorporate select television characters into their books. King Tut officially entered DC Comics continuity in 2009 within Batman Confidential issue 26. In that story, DC adapted the concept by reintroducing him as Victor Goodman, a professor adopting the King Tut identity. His Egyptian-themed delusions were preserved while placing him inside established comic continuity. This marked his full transition from television to print. King Tut was created for television and later added to DC Comics continuity through a published comic appearance. At number 8 is Condiment King, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through animated television. He was created for Batman, the animated series, and first appeared in 1994 as a one-time comic relief villain. The character was designed specifically for animation, with no connection to DC Comics continuity at the time. His identity was simple: a criminal using condiment-based weapons like mustard and ketchup, making him memorable despite limited screen time. Condiment King existed only in animation and was never intended for print. As the series gained lasting popularity, DC chose to bring select television creations into the comic universe. Condiment King officially entered DC Comics continuity in 2002 with Birds of Prey issue 37. The comics adapted the concept directly, retaining his gimmick while assigning him the name Mitchell Mayo. His transition required minimal changes, placing him as a minor villain within established continuity. Condiment King was introduced in an animation and later appeared in DC Comics as part of established continuity. Coming up, we have a masked mystery from Teen Titans and a forgotten TV goddess who became canon. Plus, the man who bossed Superman around on the radio decades before the comics even knew he existed. At number 7 is Red X, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through animation. Red X first appeared in the Teen Titans animated series in 2004. The identity was introduced as a masked figure connected to Robin and was created only for the television storyline. Initially, the character existed exclusively within the animated series and had no place in DC Comics continuity. The mystery surrounding the suit, the hidden identity, and the silent presence made Red X stand out to viewers. Due to strong fan response, DC later chose to bring the concept into the comics. Red X officially entered DC Comics continuity in 2021 through Teen Titans Academy issue number 1. In this version, DC introduced a character using the Red X identity, separate from Robin. The suit and name were carried over from the show, while the origin was adapted for print. This marked Red X's transition from animation into the DC comic universe as a permanent figure. At number 6 is Andrea Thomas, also known as Isis, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through live-action television. She was created for the 1970s TV series The Secrets of Isis and first appeared in 1975. The character was developed specifically for television audiences and was not originally part of DC Comics. Andrea Thomas was shown as a school teacher who gained powers from an ancient Egyptian goddess, transforming into the hero Isis. The show existed separately from DC comic continuity, even though it was produced alongside Shazam-related content. Due to the show's recognition and crossover appeal, DC chose to bring the character into its comic universe. Isis officially entered DC Comics continuity in 1976 with her appearance in Shazam issue 25. The comics carried over her television identity, costume, and powers, integrating her directly into the Shazam family stories. She was placed into established DC continuity, appearing alongside other heroes. This transition moved the character from live-action television into DC Comics continuity. At number 5 is Dreamer, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through live-action television. Dreamer first appeared in the Supergirl television series in 2018. She was created for the show as Nia Null, a journalist who discovers her destiny as a superhero with dream-based powers. Initially, the character existed only within television continuity and had no comic book counterpart. Her story and identity were developed entirely for the screen. Following strong audience response and growing recognition, DC chose to formally introduce the character into its comic universe. Dreamer officially entered DC Comics continuity in 2021 through DC Pride issue number 1. The comic adaptation retained her name, powers, costume, and role as a reporter, while aligning her origin with established DC mythology. This marked her transition from television to print. Since her comic debut, Dreamer has appeared in multiple DC Comics stories within main continuity, effectively becoming a permanent and influential hero for all fans across the entire DC universe. At number 4 is Perry White, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through radio. He was created for the Adventures of Superman radio series, and first appeared in 1940 as Clark Kent's newspaper editor. The character was developed specifically for audio storytelling to give Superman a strong authority figure at work. Initially, Perry White existed only in radio continuity and was not part of DC Comics. His presence on a nationally syndicated program made him familiar to audiences before he ever appeared on the printed page. Due to his recognition and narrative value, DC chose to bring the character into comic continuity later that year. Perry White officially entered DC Comics in Superman issue 7. The comics directly adopted his radio persona, placing him as editor of the Daily Planet with the same commanding role. His background was carried over without changes, allowing a smooth transition from radio to print. Perry White continued to appear regularly in Superman comics following his introduction. We're entering the top 3 with Lex Luthor's animated muscle and the Arrowverse's greatest ally. And finally, the only teenager who ever successfully replaced Bruce Wayne as the true Batman. At number 3 is Mercy Graves, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through animated television. She was created for Superman, the animated series, and first appeared in 1996. Mercy was designed specifically for the cartoon as Lex Luthor's bodyguard and trusted executive, with no original connection to DC comic continuity. Her role existed only within the animated universe, where she stood beside Luthor as a constant presence of strength. Due to strong audience response, DC later chose to move the character into print. Mercy Graves officially entered DC Comics continuity in 1999 within Detective Comics issue 735. The comics adapted her directly from animation, placing her into storylines as Luthor's assistant and protector. Her personality, skills, and loyalty were preserved while her background was expanded to fit the comic canon. This marked her move from animation into mainstream DC storytelling. Since her comic debut, Mercy Graves has appeared across multiple Superman, Batman, and Justice League comic series. At number 2 is John Diggle, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through live-action television. He was created for the CW series Arrow and first appeared in 2012 as a private security operative assigned to Oliver Queen. The character was developed specifically for television storytelling and did not originate in DC Comics. John Diggle existed only within the Arrowverse, where he served as Oliver's closest ally and moral support. Due to strong audience response and his importance on the show, DC later decided to bring the character into comic continuity. John Diggle officially entered DC Comics in 2013 through Green Arrow Volume 5, Issue 24. The comics introduced him as a mysterious figure revealed to be Diggle, effectively adapting his television role for print. His military background and connection to Oliver Queen were retained, while details were adjusted to fit comic canon. This transition placed John Diggle into DC Comics continuity following his television debut. At number 1 is Terry McGinnis, a DC character who entered the universe from outside comic books through animation. Terry McGinnis first appeared in 1999 in the animated television series Batman Beyond. He was created specifically for television as a new generation Batman living in a future Gotham City, guided by an elderly Bruce Wayne. At the time of his debut, Terry existed only in animated continuity and was not part of DC Comics canon. The character was developed to carry the Batman legacy forward for a younger audience through storytelling rather than print. Following the success of the animated series, DC chose to formally bring Terry into comics. He officially made his comic book debut in 1999 with the launch of the Batman Beyond miniseries. The comic directly adapted the television origin, design, and mentor relationship, bringing the animated future to the printed page. His suit design, personality, and supporting characters were carried over from animation into the comics. From screen to page, these outsiders changed DC. Which surprised you most? Comment down below your favorite part, and press the subscribe button and bell icon for more and regular updates.